I'm genuinely curious about why an equal split seems to be a sticking point in dating. I totally understand that in a long-term relationship or marriage, especially if my partner takes on household duties like caring for children, cooking, and other responsibilities, it wouldn't be fair to ask for a financial split. When I get to that stage, I'd expect to make enough to support my partner if she chose not to work. But for now, as I'm still in training, why is splitting things equally such a problem? In this dating phase, when we both have jobs and aren't living together, and she may even be dating other people if we're not exclusive, what warrants the expectation for me to pay for everything and take her on all expenses-paid vacations? I'm not saying I never treat my partner. I enjoy buying gifts and taking her out when I can, but I don't understand why it has to be that way every single time. Does an equal split in dating bother a lot of women, and if so, why? I'm trying to understand different perspectives, especially since I've run into this issue more than once. Thanks for any insights. Story 1. Is this an American thing? I can't remember a time when a woman didn't offer to split. It actually seems very important to them to do so in the United Kingdom and among the foreign women I have been on dates with as well. Story 2. As was explained to me, a woman would want to go 50-50 on a date so that she doesn't have to listen to some person tell her that since he paid for the date, she needs to give him sex. Since she paid for her half, she doesn't have any obligation to him. Story 3. Generally speaking, it is because being generous is seen as being more seductive or attractive, especially in men. Your desire to split the bill signals that you're cheap or broke, neither of which are particularly seductive or attractive traits in men. Relative to the rest of the dating pool, a guy being generous and paying for the meal is the status quo, so anything less than that is going to put you lower on the pecking order for the vast majority of women. No amount of ideological, psychological, or financial rationalization is going to change how the vast majority of women feel about that. Women tend to trust their feelings, especially with relationships, so it isn't an aspect that should be taken lightly. Story 4. I'm in my 40s. I've always paid for myself on dates. It establishes early on that I expect to be treated as an equal partner and will treat them the same way in a relationship. I've never had a guy complain about it. They're usually pleasantly surprised. Story 5. Do you really need this to be explained to you? Men are viewed as providers in the nuclear family, even in a society that has become more progressive. The good news is that there are plenty of women who are okay with going 50-50. Some will even be offended if you try to pay for everything. Make no mistake though, even if the woman is okay with 50-50, cultural norms will make you feel pressure to pay. If you don't have a lot to spend, the best thing you can do is get creative with what kind of dates you go on. Story 6. Because women have been told, and some believe, they do not get paid fairly for the same work, they feel that encouraging men to pay more for their time is the way to go. There are also the traditionalists who think men should pay because men have always paid. Story 7. I like to treat the women I date, at least at first. It feels like a gift. But I don't like it when it's demanded or expected because I'm the man. That kind of gender essentialism is really cringeworthy to me. It's nice if they offer to split, which many do, and then I offer to pay it. Story 8. Don't you see, she is doing you a favor, not the other way around. Her time is valuable and your time is worthless. Therefore, you must pay. That's the basic mental gymnastics of immature, entitled, narcissistic women. Story 9. 50-50 is fair. But dating is not fair. Women generally can be pickier when it comes to men. The idea that the man pays is simply the result of a power imbalance. And really, that just comes down to evolution. Story 10. I am at a point where I can afford a first date without question, but I'm also on the lookout for a partner. I believe myself to be a pretty good judge of character, so I would hope that by the second date I would have determined whether or not my date matches my energy and at least offers to pay. It's a generosity thing. I'm not out for fancy expenditures right up front anyway. Story 11. The thing about gender roles is that, for all their problems, they have benefits. Men paying for women's everything is a relic from when they were second-class citizens that men effectively owned. But that particular item benefits women, and so they are invested in it persisting. Traditional gender roles largely work well if the woman is okay with the loss of career progression, and if both parties are okay with and able to fulfill their roles. I only get annoyed when one side wants the benefits of traditional roles while trying to be more progressive on their side. For example, men demanding housewives who also split the bills, or women who don't want to be housewives who demand men pay for everything. But yeah, I think we have a long way before traditional gender roles aren't the norm anymore. Patriarchy and all that. Story 12. Bucking about 4 million years of human behavior where historically men provide and women divide. It's literally only in the last century, and arguably the last 3 to 4 decades, that women have had the opportunities to earn similar to men. And that's only if they live in Western countries and choose the hard degrees and careers. So culturally, women still measure a man by his ability to provide, and dating is the interview stage. For what it's worth, it's not fair. Not during dating, not during marriage, and especially not in divorce, but it is what it is. Don't hate the players, hate the game. Story 13. I'm a woman. Maybe it's more like a cultural thing. Here in Northern Europe, most of the time, I could say 90%, we do split our bills. But sometimes, if the man wants to pay, we thank them. If not, that's totally fine, we have our own money to pay. I don't know why people go on dates if they don't have money, regardless of gender. Story 14. In my experience, I'd be very uncomfortable with a man paying for every single date and would never expect or want that. You do need equality in a relationship. If anything, I'd be likely to cover the second date to show I am equally invested as he is and to treat him as well, show him I have his back. Having said that, although I offer to split on a first date, I do like it when they offer to pay for several reasons. One, it often correlates with men who are gentlemen in other ways, which is my type, men who will pull out your chair, hold the car door, etc. If he is generous at dinner, he is often generous in other ways, and that often piques my interest. I can always spoil him back later on. Yes, a handful do it to feel entitled and gain access to you however they want, but this is also useful because, if you see that his affections are conditional, his love will be as well. Remember, dating is all about phasing out unsuitable people, and this kind of entitlement or ownership is a bullet to be dodged. 2. It's an indicator that he is financially responsible. For him to risk losing his money if things don't work out with you shows that he isn't afraid to spend, whereas the ones who insist on going 50-50, I've noticed, often do so because they're struggling financially. That's fine, but if you get into a relationship with someone, you will likely pool your resources and don't want to risk it with someone who is bad at managing money. So, if they don't sweat picking up the tab, you know they are making enough to keep themselves steady, and that means they'll be less of a liability as a partner, which is attractive. 3. It shows that he's capable of stepping up and being a provider. Now, obviously this is not quite as relevant these days financially, as women can normally support themselves. But a lot of us do feel a deep-seated need to be taken care of. It isn't because of wanting to be a spoiled princess, although it is for a few. It is because it is biologically deep-seated within us. Men, on the whole, are stronger, taller, and bigger. They are traditionally the protectors, as they were best placed to protect their mate and her children against external threats. This may not always apply so much now, especially if they want to stay child-free, but the principle remains for many women. By him picking up the bill, it tells you that he wants to look after you and take the pressure off you. Feeling safe and provided for by a man in his masculine energy is what brings out our true femininity. 4. It shows that he's willing to go above and beyond for a woman he likes. We all have dated the half-hearted men who ghost us, lead us on, put in minimal effort, etc. In the early dating stages, it can be hard to tell whether a guy is a love bomber or a lover boy. The thing with love bombers is that they never follow through on their words. The lover boys, on the other hand, show up properly and demonstrate that you're worth their time, energy, attention, and love. For him to pay for the first date shows that he doesn't want to coast by on a 50-50 split, like they could get away with these days. It shows that he's willing to put effort into your connection, which will translate well into a relationship. What often makes women want to break up is when they don't feel appreciated anymore, e.g., their husband never buys them a gift, they don't spend time with them, they don't take her places. That emotional disconnect, in which they feel that their man is no longer interested or invested in them, is what makes them feel unsafe and want to leave. When a man shows that he's willing to show some effort even when you both don't yet have any obligations to each other, it is another green flag which makes us more likely to want to keep dating him. These are the ones I can think of from the top of my head. I think a lot of these reasons get lost in the generalization that all women are gold diggers and don't want to pay their way. Yes, there are a small number who do demand full princess treatment without giving anything in return, but the same can also be said for some men who want prince treatment in bountiful sex, attention, ego strokes, etc. without putting in any effort on their side. Story 15. 50-50 should not be a problem. If she reacts poorly to the suggestion, major red flag. Period. Women, even those with traditional upbringing and values, should have an expectation that they contribute to the relationship in several aspects: emotional, social, financial, and so on. During the dating phase, you are teaching someone what to expect from you. This is where you communicate and set expectations around what you both contribute and share with each other. She is likely testing you in this phase to see if you are going to be a partner who will provide for her and a family, or trying to find out if you will be strict about finances. Or who knows, maybe she is selfish. If she expects you to pay for everything, she likely observed these kinds of dynamics in her home or on social media, which could be another red flag. I'm not saying it's wrong, but if she is not willing to accept that some relationships look different, then that is where the red flag comes in. I come from a traditional home and had a traditional relationship modeled for me my entire life, but I also know it's not the only way for a relationship to be successful. In marriage or partnership, the roles and expectations may change, so another conversation should take place about what these expectations are in a new role as a spouse, partner, or parent. If the dating is casual, then I think a 50-50 split is a reasonable expectation. If one person has more disposable income than their date, and they want to do more expensive dinners or experiences, then maybe they can contribute more financially to those experiences if they want the other person to participate. During a courting phase, the roles have changed, and you should have another conversation about what you each contribute in multiple dimensions or share. If someone is not contributing in some way, or taking shortcuts in the relationship now, ask yourself and them if they will take shortcuts in a marriage or partnership too. In summary, 50-50 is reasonable in the dating phase. Afterwards, contributions and roles should be discussed. Story 16. This isn't a brag. I've slept with 50 or 60 women. I think I paid for a first date about 3 times in my life. I'm British and our dates are bars, not meals, for the vast majority of 20-somethings. So it's not a lot of money and nobody cares. You buy by the round and you take turns to pay. Story 17. Because having men pay for everything is one of the perks of being a traditional woman that women want to hold on to, despite not being so traditional anymore. Story 18. Because a lot of women are only feminists when it's convenient for them. When it's time to pay a bill, make the first move, or defend themselves, suddenly they believe in gender roles. That fake equality is holding the movement back. Story 19. I don't want a leech. I want a partner. This means that I expect everything to be equal in every way. This also means we can treat each other, take the bill for whatever reason, but it does mean there must be no expectations on either side. If we are equal, then I don't need to buy your interest. You should be as interested in me as I am in you, regardless of material exchanges. Relationships rarely work if one partner is more interested than the other, and if both are equally interested, who pays for what becomes completely irrelevant. Story 20. The first date should always be 50-50. That way, as a man, you can't be used for a free meal. Also, if you are both on a first date, you both have something potentially to gain, depending on your goals, so both should invest in the date. Story 21. I don't know, man, I just don't get it. I've never asked a lady who agreed to let me take them out to cover part of the tab. Call me old-fashioned. It's certainly an apt descriptor. And I am in my 50s and pretty checked out on modern dating, which I hear is a massive downer. But I never even let the topic come up. When we were done eating and enjoying our meal, I didn't even let the server bring the check. I just waved them over, gave them my card, and asked them to take care of it. No, do you need me to pay? Conversation from her side of the table. Just let's finish up here and figure out if we want to go get ice cream at Brahms. Which, we almost always will because Brahms is awesome. Story 22. This is simple. Women equal beings with value. Men equal beings with less value. It's the job of the less valuable being to make the valuable being feel like their value is always above theirs. This starts from the first date. Basically, why would a diamond have to pay half of a dinner with a penny? There you go, that's women's logic on why men must always pay. Men are not women's equals. This is another reminder of that. Story 23. Strong, independent, toxic feminists are out there twisting the minds of the remaining good women. They only want equality when it suits them. If you cannot find a woman who wants to do 50-50, then find someone who will. You are only going down a path that will destroy you later in life. Story 24. Lucked out with my wife. Been together 9 years. Rarely fight. Her money is her money. My money is mine. We go 50-50 on rent and bills. She buys her own groceries and I buy mine. No joint account, no arguments, just compromise on everything. Story 25. Something to remember about dating women is that how she feels about something almost always overrides objective reality. If a woman offers to split, accepting that offer can cause her to feel like you may not be able to take care of her should you two end up married. Yes, even if you have just met, many women will take this very far. Again, regardless of reality, most of a woman's movement is based on how she feels. My advice is never to plan an event that you can't afford with only your disposable income. Dating is a luxury, and a relationship with a woman should convey that you already have your needs met with extra to spare. Just like gambling, only use money you can afford to lose without losing any sleep over it.